morning sun rose over New Busan like it had for the past 70 years. The golden light touched the endless fields of grain that stretched to the horizon. Green plants swayed in the gentle breeze. Birds sang in the trees that lined the farming roads. It was a perfect day on a perfect world. Jiwon Park stood on the balcony of the colony administration building. She held a cup of coffee in her hands and watched the farmers begin their daily work. At 45 years old, Jiwon had gray hair and kind eyes. She had come to New Busan 20 years ago from Earth. Back then she was a diplomat who spent her days in meetings and dealing with problems. Now she was the colony administrator, and her biggest worry was making sure the harvest went well. "Another beautiful day," said Daeho Kim as he joined her on the balcony. Daeho was the head of colonial defense, but there was not much defending to do. He was a tall man with strong hands and a gentle smile. He had been a soldier once, but that was long ago. Now he helped fix farming equipment and taught children how to swim in the lakes. "The weather report says it will be sunny all week," Jiwon replied. "Mira will be happy. The corn is almost ready for harvest." Mira Choi was the chief agricultural engineer. She was 29 years old and the smartest person on New Busan. 3 years ago, she had found a way to make the soil even better for growing crops. Now they could feed twice as many people with the same amount of land. Mira loved her work and spent most of her time in the fields or in her laboratory. "Has Hyun finished the monthly report to Earth?" Daeho asked. "He sent it yesterday," Jiwon said. "Everything is going well here. Population is stable at 50,000. No crimes last month, no accidents, no problems at all." Hyun Lee was their communications officer. He was 31 years old and kept in touch with Earth and the other human colonies. Every month he sent reports about life on New Busan. The reports were always the same. Everything was peaceful. Everything was good. New Busan was not the first human colony, but it was one of the best. The first settlers had arrived 70 years ago. They were farmers and engineers and teachers who wanted a simple life. They found a world with good soil, clean water, and perfect weather. They built small towns and planted crops. They raised families and lived in peace. The humans had a deal with the galaxy called the Galactic Accord. It was signed 200 years ago when humanity first traveled to the stars. The other alien races were much older and stronger than humans. They had better technology and bigger armies, but they agreed to protect humanity if humans promised to stay peaceful. Humans could have their own worlds and colonies, but they could not build warships or fight wars. Most humans were happy with this deal. They did not want to fight anyway. They wanted to build things and grow things and learn things. Earth became a center for art and science. The human colonies became places where people could live simple, good lives. New Busan was the perfect example of what humans could do. The colonists had turned a rocky, empty world into a garden. They built cities that worked with nature instead of against it. Their farms produced more food than they could eat. Their factories made everything they needed without polluting the air or water. Children played in safe streets. Old people sat in parks and told stories. Young people fell in love and got married and had children of their own. It was the kind of life that people on Earth dreamed about but could rarely have. "I need to check on the new water treatment plant," Daeho said. "Want to come with me?" Jiwon nodded. They walked through the town center, saying hello to people they met. The baker waved from his shop window. A group of children ran past, chasing a ball. 2 old men sat on a bench playing a board game. The water treatment plant was on the edge of town. It was a beautiful building covered in green plants. Inside, machines cleaned water from the underground springs and sent it to every home in the colony. The plant was so efficient that it actually made the water cleaner than it was in nature. "Everything looks good," Daeho said after checking the control panels. "This plant could run for 50 years without major repairs." "That's what I like to hear," Jiwon said. "Simple, reliable, and built to last." They walked back through the residential area. The houses were small but comfortable. Each family had a garden where they grew vegetables and flowers. Solar panels on the roofs provided electricity. Rain collectors gathered water for the gardens. Mira Choi was working in the main laboratory when they found her. She was looking at soil samples under a microscope. Her desk was covered with papers and computer screens showing plant growth data. "How are the crops looking?" Jiwan asked. "Better than ever," Mira replied without looking up from her microscope. "The new soil treatment is working perfectly. We should have our biggest harvest yet this year." "Any problems we should know about?" Deho asked. "None at all. The only problem is that we're growing so much food we don't know what to do with it all. Maybe we should start trading with other colonies." Jiwan smiled. "That sounds like a good problem to have." In the evening, the three friends met at Jiwan's house for dinner. This was their weekly tradition. They would cook a simple meal and talk about life on New Busan. Tonight, Hyun Lee joined them too. "I got a message from the colony on New Jeju," Hyun said. "They want to know how we made our farming so successful. They're having trouble with their soil." "We should help them," Mira said immediately. "I could send them our soil treatment formula." "That's what I love about our people," Jiwan said. "We always want to help others." They ate their dinner and watched the sunset through the window. The sky turned orange and pink. The first stars began to appear. Everything was peaceful and perfect. None of them knew that high above their heads, alien ships were watching their world. None of them knew that their peaceful life was about to end. They went to sleep that night thinking that tomorrow would be just like today, and the day after would be just like tomorrow. They were wrong. The alarms started at dawn. Jiwan Park woke up to the sound of sirens wailing across New Busan. She had never heard these alarms before. They were supposed to warn of natural disasters like storms or earthquakes. But the sky was clear, and the ground was still. She grabbed her communication device and called Daeho Kim. "What's happening?" she asked. "I don't know," Daeho replied. His voice was tight with worry. "But you need to come to the defense center right now. We have visitors." Jiwan dressed quickly and ran through the empty streets. People were coming out of their houses, looking confused and scared. Children cried in their parents' arms. No one knew what was wrong. The Colonial Defense Center was a small building near the spaceport. It was usually quiet because there was nothing to defend against. Now it was full of people running around and shouting orders. Daeho met her at the door. His face was pale. "Look up," he said. Jiwan looked at the sky. At first she saw nothing but blue and white clouds. Then she saw them. 5 massive ships hanging in the air like dark metal mountains. They were bigger than anything she had ever seen. They blocked out the sun and cast shadows over half the colony. "Who are they?" she asked. "We don't know yet," Daeho said. "They won't answer our calls. But they're not human ships." Inside the defense center, Hyun Lee was trying to contact the alien ships. His communication equipment filled the room, with static and strange sounds. Finally, a voice came through the speakers. It was cold and harsh, speaking in broken human language. "Humans of the planet you call New Busan," the voice said. "This is Admiral Thekvar of the Velkari Empire. Your time on this world is finished. You have 72 hours to gather your possessions and leave. Any who remain after that time will be removed by force." The room went silent. Jiwan felt her heart stop beating for a moment. "This has to be a mistake," she said. "We have protection under the Galactic Accord. They can't just take our world." "I am sending our legal documents to your ships," Hyun said into his microphone. "The Galactic Accord guarantees our right to this colony. Please review the treaties and withdraw your forces." The alien voice laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Your treaties mean nothing to us, human. The Galactic Council is weak and cowardly. They will not help you. This world belongs to the Velkari Empire now. You have 71 hours and 58 minutes remaining." The communication ended. The room filled with the sound of static again. "Get me a connection to Earth," Jiwan ordered, "and try to reach the Galactic Council." For the next 6 hours, Hyun tried to call for help. He sent messages to Earth, to other human colonies, and to every member of the Galactic Council. The responses were disappointing. Earth received their message but said it would take weeks to organize any kind of help. The other human colonies were too far away and too small to send military support. Most of the Galactic Council members did not reply at all. The few who did reply sent polite but useless messages. The Zenthari Confederacy said they were concerned about the situation, but could not get involved in disputes between other species. The Molari Trade Union said they hoped for a peaceful resolution, but had no authority to intervene. "They're abandoning us," Deho said. He was looking at the messages on his computer screen. 200 years of keeping our side of the deal, and they won't lift a finger to help us. "We have to evacuate," Jiwan said. The words hurt to say, but she knew they had no choice. "How many transport ships do we have?" "Not enough," Deho replied. "We can get maybe 30,000 people off the planet in 3 days. That leaves 20,000 with nowhere to go." "Then we start with the children and the elderly," Jiwan decided, "and we keep trying to get more ships." The next 2 days were chaos. Families packed everything they could carry into bags and boxes. Transport ships landed at the spaceport every few hours, but there were never enough seats for everyone who needed to leave. Mira Choi worked day and night to preserve as much of their agricultural research as possible. She copied all of their data onto portable storage devices. She collected seeds from every plant they had developed. "Maybe we can start over somewhere else," she told Jiwan. The Velkari ships stayed in the sky, waiting and watching. Sometimes smaller ships would fly down to scan the colony. The aliens never came close enough for the humans to see them clearly, but their presence was always felt. On the final day, the remaining 20,000 colonists gathered at the spaceport. They knew there were not enough ships for all of them, but they hoped for a miracle. The miracle did not come. Instead, Velkari ground forces landed. The aliens were tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes. They wore armor that gleamed like metal and carried weapons that hummed with energy. They moved with cold efficiency, herding the humans toward the waiting transport ships. Old Gichan Yun was walking slowly toward one of the ships when he stumbled and fell. He was 83 years old and had lived on New Busan for 50 years. He had helped build the first farms and had seen the colony grow from a few hundred people to 50,000. A Velkari soldier walked over to him. The alien looked down at the old man struggling to get back on his feet. Without warning, the soldier raised his weapon and fired. Gichan Yun died instantly. His granddaughter Soman screamed and ran to his body. She was only 16 years old. The Velkari soldier pushed her away with the barrel of his gun. "Let this be a lesson," Admiral Thekvar announced over loudspeakers. "We are not patient with weakness. Move quickly or face the same fate." Hyun-Lee had been recording everything for the colony's final report. His camera captured the murder of Gichan Yun. Without thinking, he activated the emergency broadcast system and sent the recording to every human colony and ship in known space. The image of an alien soldier killing a helpless old man spread across human space in hours. It reached Earth in 6 hours. It reached the furthest human colonies in 3 days. For the first time in 200 years, humanity saw one of their own murdered by aliens. The last transport ship left New Busan 6 hours later. Jiwan Park was on it, along with Daeho Kim, Mira Choi, and Hyun Lee. They watched through the windows as their home disappeared behind them. Below them, Velkari forces were already setting up their own bases. The beautiful farms were being destroyed to make room for alien buildings. The parks where children had played were being turned into military compounds. "They didn't just take our world," Mira said quietly. "They destroyed it." "Maybe it's better this way," Jiwan said, though she did not believe her own words. "Maybe we can build something new somewhere else." But Daeho was looking at the communication reports coming in on his portable device. Messages from human colonies across the galaxy. Messages full of anger and disbelief. Messages asking what humanity was going to do about this. "I don't think we're going to be building farms for a while," he said. The transport ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying the refugees of New Busan toward an uncertain future. Behind them, their world burned under alien occupation, but across human space something was awakening. Something that had slept for 200 years was opening its eyes and flexing its muscles. The galaxy had made a terrible mistake. They had forgotten what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. They were about to remember. The image of Gichon Yun's death reached Earth 12 hours after it happened. President Inha Nam was in her office when her aide burst through the door with the emergency report. She watched the recording 3 times before she spoke. "Colin, emergency session of the Human Colonial Council," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Contact every human colony, every research station, every ship captain. I want representatives from all of them here within 1 week. The aide looked confused. "Madam President, the Colonial Council hasn't met in full session for over 50 years. Some of these colonies are months away from Earth." "Then they better start traveling now," President Nam replied. The message went out across human space that same day. For the first time since the Galactic Accord was signed, every human settlement would send someone to speak for their people. The journey would be long and expensive, but no one refused to come. While the representatives traveled to Earth, something else was happening across human space. The recording of the old man's murder was playing on every communication channel. People who had never thought about war or violence watched an innocent grandfather die for no reason except that he was human. On the mining station orbiting Jupiter, workers stopped their drilling and gathered in the common areas to watch the news. Most of them had never heard of New Busan before, but now they knew the names of every person who had died there. "Those aliens think we're weak," said Shift Supervisor Dongyun Park. "They think we can't fight back." "Maybe they're right," replied his friend Jamin Kwan. "We haven't fought a war in 2 centuries. We don't even know how anymore." "Then we better learn fast," Dongyun said. On the research station at New Seoul, Dr. Yoonji Kang was in her laboratory when she received the news. She was humanity's leading expert in theoretical physics, a brilliant woman who spent her days studying the mysteries of the universe. She had never thought about weapons or warfare. Now she was thinking about nothing else. She walked to a locked storage room that hadn't been opened in decades. Inside were research files from the old days before the Galactic Accord, designs for weapons that could destroy planets, theories about faster-than-light missiles, plans for ships that could carry enough firepower to level entire star systems. The research had been stopped when humanity chose peace, but it had never been destroyed. "Just in case," Dr. Kang whispered to herself. She began copying the files to her personal computer. Captain Wonho Jang commanded a small fleet of cargo ships that carried supplies between the outer colonies. He was a simple man who liked the quiet life of deep space travel. His ships were old and slow, but they were reliable. When he heard about New Busan, he gathered his crew in the main cargo bay of his flagship. "I know we're not soldiers," he told them. "We're just cargo haulers. But those people on New Busan were our people. They were humans like us, and now they're homeless refugees because aliens decided to take their world." His crew nodded. They all had families on various colonies. They all understood that what happened to New Busan could happen to anyone. "I'm not ordering anyone to do this," Captain Jang continued, "but I'm going to convert my ships into something that can fight. Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the nearest station." No questions asked. None of his crew left. Instead, they began the work of turning cargo ships into weapons of war. The Human Colonial Council met 3 weeks later. Representatives from 847 human settlements gathered in the Great Hall on Earth. Some had traveled for months to be there. Others had never been to Earth before. President Nam stood before them all. Behind her was a massive screen showing the image of Gichon Yun's death. "Fellow humans," she began. "For 200 years we have kept our promise to the galaxy. We have been peaceful. We have been productive. We have caused no trouble and asked for no special treatment. We have honored every treaty and followed every rule." The hall was silent. Every person there had seen the recording. Every person there knew why they had come. "The galaxy has broken its promise to us," President Nam continued. "They swore to protect us in exchange for our peaceful nature. When we needed them, they abandoned us. When we called for help, they turned away." She gestured to the screen. "This is what our peace has brought us. This is what our trust has earned us. An old man murdered by aliens who think we are too weak to fight back. A representative from the new Daegu colony stood up. "What are you suggesting, Madam President?" "I am suggesting that we have been naive," she replied. "We thought that being peaceful meant being safe. We thought that the galaxy respected our choice to avoid violence. We were wrong." Another representative spoke up. "The Galactic Accord still exists. If we break it by becoming militaristic, we could lose everything." "We have already lost everything," shouted someone from the back of the hall. "Our people are refugees. Our world is occupied. What more can they take from us?" The debates went on for 3 days. Some representatives argued for continued peace. They said that violence would only make things worse. They believed that diplomacy could still solve the problem, but most of the representatives were angry. They had seen their fellow humans driven from their homes. They had watched an old man die for no crime except being human. On the final day, they voted. The result was overwhelming. 743 in favor, 104 against. The Galactic Accord was dead. Humanity would defend itself. President Nam's next order was simple. Find Admiral Taeyong Shin. Admiral Shin was 77 years old and had been retired for 15 years. He lived in a small house by the ocean, where he spent his days fishing and reading old books. He was the last human to command a military fleet before the Galactic Accord banned human warfare. When the government agents came to his door, he was not surprised. "I've been watching the news," he told them. "I wondered when you would come." They brought him to a secret facility that had been closed for 2 centuries. It was called the Strategic Defense Complex, and it contained everything humanity would need to wage war. Ships that had been kept in storage, weapons that had been maintained but never used, plans for military operations that no one alive had ever seen implemented. Admiral Shin walked through the facility like a man returning home after a long journey. He examined the old warships with their weapon systems still functional. He reviewed tactical databases that contained information about every known alien species. "How long do we have?" he asked the facility commander. "The president wants a fleet ready as soon as possible," came the reply. Admiral Shin smiled for the first time in years. "Then we better get to work." Across human space, the transformation was beginning. Peaceful colonies were building weapons factories. Cargo ships were being converted into warships. Scientists were turning their knowledge from creation to destruction. The galaxy had taught humanity a hard lesson. Peace was only possible when others respected your strength. Without strength, peace was just another word for defenselessness. Humanity was done being defenseless. On the Velkari-occupied world that used to be New Busan, the alien forces were setting up their new base. They had enslaved the few hundred humans who had been unable to evacuate. These humans were forced to work in mines and factories, building the weapons that the Velkari would use to conquer other worlds. Among the slaves was young Somin Yoon, whose grandfather had been murdered on the first day. She worked in the underground, mines digging rare metals for her captors. Every day she thought about her grandfather's death. Every day she wondered if anyone would come to help them. She did not know that across human space millions of people were working day and night to answer that question. The answer would come sooner than the Velkari expected, and it would come with fire and fury that the galaxy had not seen for 200 years. 6 months after the fall of New Busan, the largest fleet in human history assembled at the edge of Velkari space. Admiral Taeyong Shin stood on the bridge of the UHSS Sejong the Great, humanity's first purpose-built warship in 2 centuries. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see hundreds of ships stretching into the darkness. They were not beautiful ships like the sleek vessels of other alien races. Some were converted cargo haulers with weapons bolted to their hulls. Others were ancient warships pulled from storage and updated with new technology. A few were brand new, built in the weapons factories that had sprung up across human space. But every ship carried humans who were angry, humans who remembered the image of Gichan Yoon dying on the ground, humans who would not forget. "Admiral," said his communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the Velkari fleet." On the main screen appeared the face of Admiral Tekvar. the alien who had ordered the evacuation of New Busan. His gray skin was marked with scars and his black eyes showed no emotion. "So the humans have come to play at war," Tekvar said. His voice carried the same cold amusement it had 6 months ago. "Your ships are impressive in number, but we both know that quantity means nothing without quality. Your technology is centuries behind ours." Admiral Shin studied the alien's face. "We're not here to negotiate," he said simply. "Of course not," Tekvar replied. "You're here to die heroically and make yourselves feel better about your weakness. Very well. I will make your deaths quick." The communication ended. Admiral Shin turned to his tactical officer. "Signal the fleet," he said. "Begin the attack." The Velkari had assembled their own fleet to meet the human threat. Their ships were faster and more advanced than anything humanity possessed. Their weapons could punch through human shields like paper. Their commanders had centuries of experience in space warfare. What they did not expect was the way humans fought. Captain Wanho Jiang led the first wave of attack ships. His converted cargo vessels looked like floating junk compared to the sleek Velkari cruisers. But when the battle began, something amazing happened. Instead of trying to match the aliens in a fair fight, the humans used tactics that no civilized species would consider. Cargo ships loaded with explosives rammed into Velkari vessels at full speed. Fighters attacked in swarms, sacrificing themselves to damage larger ships. Mining ships used their industrial equipment as weapons, tearing apart enemy hulls with cutting beams designed to slice through asteroids. "They fight like animals," one Velkari captain reported to Admiral Tekvar. "They have no regard for their own lives." But that was not true. The humans did value their lives. They just valued their freedom more. Dr. Yunji Kang's experimental weapons proved devastating in actual combat. Her gravity bombs turned entire sections of Velkari ships into twisted metal. Her particle beam arrays cut through enemy armor like it was made of cloth. Weapons that existed only in theory 6 months ago were now destroying alien fleets. The battle raged for 18 hours. When it ended, half the Velkari fleet was destroyed or disabled. The human losses were heavy, but they had won their first victory in 2 centuries. Admiral Tekvar escaped in a damaged command ship, but his arrogance was gone. He sent an emergency message to the Velkari High Command. "The humans are not what we expected. Request immediate reinforcements." But the humans were not finished. Admiral Shin had learned from the battle, and he was already planning the next attack. "They think like soldiers," he told his staff officers. "They fight according to rules and traditions. We think like survivors. That's our advantage." Word of the victory spread across human space in hours. For the first time since the Galactic Accord, humans had won a military battle against aliens. The news brought celebration, but also determination. This was just the beginning. The Galactic Council was meeting in emergency session. Representatives from dozens of alien species gathered to discuss the human problem. Ambassador Veltara of the Zenthari spoke first. "We must intervene before this conflict spreads. The humans are showing dangerous aggression." The Velkari started this war, replied another ambassador. "They violated the Galactic Accord when they attacked a protected human world." "That does not excuse the humans' response," Veltara argued. "Their tactics are barbaric. They fight without honor, without restraint. If we allow this to continue, it will upset the balance of power in the galaxy." But even as they debated, more reports were coming in. The human fleet had attacked 3 more Velkari worlds. Each battle was bloodier than the last. The aliens were learning to fight like humans, but humans were learning to fight like soldiers. On the occupied world of New Busan, the enslaved humans heard whispers of the war. Somin Yun was working in the deep mines when a fellow slave brought her news. "They say a human fleet destroyed a Velkari base at Kepler Station," he whispered. "They say Admiral Tekvar is asking for help from the home fleet." Somin's hands shook as she continued her work. Could it be true? Were humans really fighting back? That night, she looked up at the stars through a crack in the mine ceiling. Somewhere out there, people were fighting for her freedom. People who had never met her were risking their lives to rescue her and the other slaves. For the first time since her grandfather's death, she felt hope. The war continued for months. The humans attacked Velkari supply lines, destroyed their military bases, and freed their slave worlds. With each victory, more human ships joined the fleet. Colonies that had never built weapons were now producing them around the clock, but the humans were also learning something else. They were good at war. Very good. Captain Wanho Jiang had become a legend among the human fleet. His converted cargo ships had destroyed more enemy vessels than any other squadron, but when reporters asked him how he felt about killing aliens, his answer surprised them. "I don't feel good about it," he said. "I don't enjoy killing. But those aliens taught us that the galaxy respects only strength, so we became strong." Admiral Shin was planning the final assault on the Velkari home system when he received a desperate communication from Admiral Thekvar. "I offer surrender," the alien said. His proud voice was now broken and tired. "Spare our home world and the Velkari Empire will withdraw from all human territories." Admiral Shin looked at the message for a long time. Around him, his officers waited for his decision. "Send this reply," he said finally. "You had 72 hours to leave New Busan. You taught us that mercy is weakness. We are excellent students." The communication ended. The final battle was about to begin. On New Busan, Somin Yoon felt the ground shake. High above, human ships were landing. The liberation had begun. She crawled out of the mine and saw something beautiful. Human soldiers with the flag of Earth on their uniforms. Real humans, free humans, coming to take her home. One of the soldiers saw her and smiled. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "No," she replied. "But I've been waiting for you." The soldier helped her to her feet. "Well, we're here now, and we're never leaving again." The war was almost over, but the galaxy would never be the same. 18 months after the first battle, the human fleet appeared over the Velkari homeworld. The planet below was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents much like Earth. Cities covered the land, home to billions of aliens who had never seen war on their own soil. Admiral Taeyong Shin stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the world that had started this conflict. His hair was now completely white, and his face showed the weight of all the battles he had fought. Behind him, his officers waited for orders. "Open a channel to the planet," he said. The response came quickly. It was Admiral Thekvar, but he looked nothing like the proud warrior who had demanded humanity's surrender 18 months ago. His gray skin was pale with fear, and his voice shook when he spoke. "Admiral Shin," he said, "please, my people, they are not soldiers. They are civilians, families, children. They had nothing to do with what happened to your colony." "Neither did the old man you murdered," Admiral Shin replied. "Neither did the children you made into slaves." "I beg you," Tekvar continued, "show mercy. We surrender completely. The Velkari Empire will disband. We will pay any price you demand." Admiral Shin was quiet for a moment. Around the bridge, human officers remembered the image of Gichan Yun dying on the ground. They remembered the reports from the slave camps. They remembered 6 months of brutal warfare. "You have 72 hours, Admiral Shin said finally. "Pack what you can carry and evacuate to the outer moons. Any Velkari remaining on the planet after that time will be removed by force." The communication ended. Admiral Thekvar's last words were a whisper. "You have become monsters." But Admiral Shin heard him. "No," he replied to the empty screen. "We became you." The evacuation of the Velkari homeworld was completed in exactly 72 hours. The aliens were relocated to a barren moon with basic supplies and temporary shelters. It was more mercy than they had shown to humans, but not much more. The fertile Velkari worlds were not kept by humanity. Instead, they were given to refugee populations from across the galaxy, species that had been displaced by other wars, peoples who had lost their homes to natural disasters. The message was clear. This is what happens when you break the ancient laws of hospitality. Jiwon Park returned to New Busan 6 months later. The world she had known was gone. The Velkari occupation had destroyed most of the beautiful farms and parks. The cities were damaged and the landscape was scarred by alien industrial facilities, but it was still home. She found So Min-yoon in the memorial garden that had been built where her grandfather died. The girl was 21 now, no longer the frightened teenager who had watched her grandfather's murder. She was planting flowers around a simple stone marker. Gichan-yoon, Jiwon read from the stone. Beloved grandfather, farmer, and the first human to die in the War of Reclamation. That's what they're calling it now, someone said without looking up from her planting. The War of Reclamation. Like we were taking back something that belonged to us. Weren't we? Jiwon asked. Someone considered this. Maybe. Or maybe we were just learning that sometimes you have to fight for the right to exist in peace. They worked. Together in silence, planting seeds in soil that had been watered with blood and tears. Around them, the work of rebuilding New Busan continued. It would never be the same peaceful colony it had been, but it would be home again. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was meeting an emergency session for the third time that year. The other species were terrified of what humanity had become. Ambassador Veltara of the Zenthari spoke first. The humans have violated every principle of civilized warfare. They must be stopped before they threaten other worlds. They only attacked the Velkari, pointed out another ambassador. They have made no threats against anyone else. Yet, Veltara replied, but they have shown what they are capable of. An entire species extinct in 18 months. That level of military power cannot go unchecked. The debate was interrupted when the doors to the council chamber opened. A human walked in, wearing the simple uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. It was Ambassador Min-jae-oh, humanity's new representative to the Galactic Council. Honorable members, he said, his voice calm and steady. I bring greetings from the United Human Colonies and a message from our government. The council chamber fell silent. Every alien species represented there had watched the destruction of the Velkari Empire. They knew they were looking at a representative of the galaxy's newest military power. Ambassador Oh walked to the center of the chamber. For 200 years, he began, humanity chose to be your gardeners, your engineers, your peaceful neighbors. We asked only to be left alone to build and grow and dream. We believed that peace was possible through goodwill and mutual respect. He paused, looking around at the assembled aliens. You taught us that we were wrong. You taught us that in this galaxy, peace is mistaken for weakness and kindness for stupidity. When we needed your protection, you abandoned us. When we called for help, you turned away. The ambassador's voice grew stronger. We have learned your lessons well. We have learned that respect comes only through strength. We have learned that peace is only possible when others fear the cost of breaking it. Ambassador Veltara stood up. Are you threatening us, human? I am explaining our new position, Ambassador O replied. From this day forward, humanity will protect itself and those who cannot protect themselves. We will honor our treaties with those who honor theirs. But know this. He looked directly at each council member. The oldest rule in the galaxy is no longer, don't wake the sleeping giant. It is now never cross the humans. The silence that followed was complete. Every being in that chamber understood that the galaxy had changed forever. 2 years later, Mira Choi stood in the Agricultural Research Center on New Busan's sister world, New Daegu. She was watching children play in the gardens while their parents worked the fields. The sight filled her with peace. But on the horizon, she could see the silhouettes of human warships standing guard in orbit. The galaxy had forced humanity to learn the art of war, and humans had proven to be excellent. Student Dae-ho Kim joined her at the window. He was wearing the uniform of the Human Defense Force now, with the rank of general on his shoulders. Do you miss the old days? He asked. When our biggest worry was the weather report? Mira thought about this. Sometimes, she said, but I've learned something important. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. Peace is what you have when everyone knows that conflict would be too expensive to attempt. She pointed to the children playing below. Those kids will grow up in a galaxy that respects human rights. Not because aliens have become more moral, but because they've learned that attacking humans has consequences. General Kim nodded. The Velkari taught us that lesson. Now the whole galaxy knows it. In the evening, they met with Jiwon Park and Hyun Lee for dinner. It was their old tradition continued on a new world. They cooked a simple meal and talked about life in the colonies. I got a report today, Hyun said. 3 different species have asked for human protection from aggressive neighbors. They're offering to pay us to station defense fleets in their systems. What did we tell them? Jiwon asked. We'll consider it, Hyun replied. But only if they agree to follow the Galactic Accord as it was originally written. No attacks on peaceful colonies, no slavery, no genocide. Interesting, Mira said. We've gone from being protected by the Accord to being the ones who enforce it. Maybe that's how it should have been all along, General Kim suggested. They ate their dinner and watched the stars appear in the sky. Some of those stars now shone over human colonies protected by human warships. Others illuminated the ruins of the Velkari Empire, a warning to anyone who might consider testing humanity's resolve. The galaxy had learned a new rule. Humans would prefer to be left alone to build their gardens and raise their children in peace. But if forced to choose between peace and survival, they would choose survival, and they were very, very good at surviving. In her final report to Earth, Jiwon Park wrote, "The humans had kept their promise to remain peaceful. The galaxy had broken its promise to let them. The result was a lesson that will be remembered for 1,000 years. It is better to be friends with humans than enemies." She sealed the report and sent it to Earth, then walked outside to help Somin Yoon tend the memorial garden. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, humans across the galaxy could sleep peacefully, because now everyone knew the cost of waking them up.